Is America a Christian nation? Is that where we find ourselves today? Can the two-kingdom Christian worldview still impact how church and state live in a healthy, creative tension?
I think what makes America great is precisely that it's not a Christian nation. It's an atheist nation, it's a Muslim nation, it's a Jewish nation. I would disagree that America is a Christian nation, or ever has been.
From what I read in history books, I believe so, yes.
No. It's everybody.
I just would like to see a little more Christianity.
With a lot of the people who came to this country, a lot of different religious beliefs and practices came with them. And so I think they definitely, it's just a different place now.
But when it got down to actually doing the nation building with the work of the founding fathers, Madison and Jefferson and Franklin, these guys were driven much more by the principles of the Enlightenment than by Christian principles.
Have you ever heard anyone say that America is a Christian country because we have "In God We Trust" on our money? A lot of people believe that. Actually, it wasn't until the Civil War that those words were first struck on a 2-cent coin in 1864 because of increased religious sentiment. And it wasn't until 1883 that it was on all currency. And the phrase didn't become the motto of the United States until an act of Congress made it into the national motto in 1956. But that phrase predates the Civil War. I'm pretty sure that most of us could sing the first line of the Star-Spangled Banner from memory.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's
It's our national anthem. During the War of 1812, as the morning light revealed that the battle-torn American flag still flew above Fort McHenry, Francis Scott Key wrote his poem, The Defense of Fort McHenry. It would later become known as the Star-Spangled Banner. In the fourth verse, which I've never heard anyone sing, it says, "Then conquer we must when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave." In the Pledge of Allegiance, the phrase "one nation under God" did not become a part of the pledge until 1954, after President Eisenhower heard a sermon by Reverend George Dougherty based on the Gettysburg Address titled "A New Birth of Freedom." The president was sitting in the pew that Abraham Lincoln used when he attended the New York Avenue Presbyterian Church in Washington, D.C. The pastor argued that the nation's might lay not in arms, but its spirit and higher purpose. He noted that the pledge's sentiments could be those of any nation, but there was something missing in the pledge, and that which was missing was the characteristic and definitive factor in the American way of life. He cited Lincoln's words, "under God," as defining words that set the United States apart from other nations. The next day, Congressman Charles Oakman, at the urging of Eisenhower, no doubt, introduced a bill in the House to include those words, and the new pledge was adopted on June 14, 1954. Today we celebrate that as Flag Day. Does that make America a Christian nation? Well, no. But as a limited federal government, that stands to reason. In fact, in 1797, there was a treaty called the Treaty of Tripoli. It was passed by a unanimous vote. In Article 11 of that treaty was this statement: "The government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion."
Now, the thing that gets confusing for many people, especially Christians today who want to make that argument that we are a Christian nation founded on Christian principles, is that there's a lot of overlap. Because the Enlightenment at the time of the Revolution and the founding of this country in the late 18th century, at that time, the Enlightenment was still compatible with a lot of Christian truth. There's a God, He holds us accountable, there is law, there is natural law. They agreed with all those things, and Christians agree with those things.
So while we cannot say that America is a Christian nation, for even Christianity would not speak of any nation as heaven on earth in those terms, the Founding Fathers would have been very comfortable saying that this nation is a nation of Christian people from a Christian worldview, trying to create a free and just society as free, self-governing, mostly Christian citizens. The intersection of church and state has always been complicated. The question of whether we were founded to be a Christian nation is complex as well. On the other hand, the church, people of faith, can and have contributed to the erosion of the relationship between church and state by not understanding the framework established by the Constitution, the responsibilities laid on them by the First Amendment.
When it comes to the interplay between government and religion, and in particular how the Constitution affects that today in America, I think Christians in particular have three main problems. Number one is ignorance. By that I mean we somehow love to repeat false statements without checking out the truthfulness of them. When someone says we can't have prayer in public school, or that our kids cannot pray in public school, that's just simply a false statement. If you repeat it often enough, teachers and school districts start believing it. That's one problem. The other problem is we're somehow led to believe that the Supreme Court has been unfriendly to religion and unfriendly to Christianity in particular. And you have to read these wonderful Supreme Court opinions that support religion and support Christianity, and then we need to praise those and stand up for them. The third problem, and it's a very serious one in my estimation, is when Christians seek more involvement from government than they should ask for. Government-sponsored prayers in school is okay if it's the kind of prayer you want, and therein lies the problem. But that's not to say that kids can't pray anytime they want to at school, over their meal, around the flagpole. They have every right to do that. It's called free speech. So part of the cultural problem I think we're having is that Christians have taken their faith inside the church walls, and it needs to come back onto the streets. Nothing prohibits us from expressing our faith in public. That includes government officials. And it certainly includes kids at school. If we're really concerned about the message of Christ, as opposed to whether or not Christianity wins a lawsuit, we'll be erecting nativity scenes on our lawns all over the community. We'll be spreading God's word at Christmas through our words and actions. We would not be worried about our 10 square feet on the courthouse lawn.